I'd rehearse the moment all the way home, drop my duffel, mumble home sweet home, fall face first into my old creaky bed. Instead, the first thing I smelled was wet paint. "Mom?" I called, toes slipping on a tarp laid across the hallway. Linda leaned from the kitchen like I'd returned from a quick errand. "Oh, there you are. There I am," I echoed, forcing a smile. "I just need a shower and about that," she said, smoothing her blouse. "Your room. Melissa's using it now. For her studio." For a beat, I thought the bus fumes had scrambled my hearing. "Come again?" "She needs the space," she said with a shrug that made it sound like serial preference. "You're so independent, Claire. You understand." I climbed the stairs anyway, heart thudding for reasons that had nothing to do with the 10-hour ride. My door was propped open by a bucket of brushes. Inside, nothing of me remained. Posters gone, bookshelves gone, bed gone. White walls glared back at me, splashed with experimental color. An easel stood where my dresser once held birthday cards. A ring light hummed, canvases sprawled like stepping stones. "Careful where you walk," Melissa said without looking up. A streak of ultramarine cut across her cheek like war paint. "The floor is still drying." I stared at the spot where my pillow had held the shape of my head for years. In my backpack, the souvenir I'd bartered for a set of handmade charcoal pencils wrapped in printed paper pressed into my spine. I had carried them for her. "What about my things?" I asked, voice paper thin. Dad Thomas didn't glance away from the TV when I came back down. A herd of wildebeest thundered across the savannah while my life shrank to a single question.
"In boxes," he said. "Garage, don't be selfish, okay?"
"Your sister's building a portfolio. You'll be 18 soon." Independent. Mature, easy. All those shiny words that had always meant, you don't count. I reached into my pocket, set the house keys on the counter. The metal made a small sound, like a period. "Where are you going?" Mom called as I opened the door. "Not sure," I said. It was the truest sentence I'd spoken in months. Evening air hit my face cool, steady, indifferent. I walked past the mailbox, past the patch of lawn where I once tried to grow sunflowers that never made it to August. My duffel thumped against my leg. I could have turned back. I could have begged for a conversation that would end the way all our conversations ended, with a shrug and a reminder that I was good at taking care of myself. At the corner, I stopped beneath a flickering streetlight and unzipped the small outer pocket of my bag. The charcoal set lay there, beautiful and useless. I pictured Melissa opening it, saying thanks in that voice that always carried a footnote, only because it helps me. A bus roared by. I didn't get on. Bee's couch was an option, maybe for a night or two. But the thought that rose, uninvited, was lace curtains and a crocheted blanket that smelled faintly of lavender. My grandmother, Margaret. She had a way of looking at me like I was a person and not a solution. I thumbed my phone awake. No missed calls. No "did you get in safely?" No anything. The screen threw my reflection back at me, damp eyes, a smear of road dust, someone older than 17. I hovered over Bee's name, then scrolled to Grandma. My finger trembled. Would I worry her? Would Mom and Dad find out and turn even that sanctuary into an argument about appropriate boundaries? Behind me, our house windows glowed warm and gold. Upstairs, a ring light burned in what used to be my room. I pressed call. It rang once, twice. "Claire." Grandma answered, voice bright and wary at the same time. "Honey, are you all right? You never call this late." I swallowed. "Can I come by tomorrow?" A pause. Then the soft rustle of sheets. "You can come by tonight if you need to." I looked back at the house, at the keys no longer in my pocket, at the life that had quietly shifted while I was away. "Tomorrow's okay," I said, though I wasn't sure it was. "There's a lot." "There usually is," she murmured. "We'll make tea, we'll sort it." The call ended. The streetlight buzzed and went out, leaving me in a gentler dark. I tightened my grip on the duffel and started walking toward B's street, toward a borrowed couch, toward a morning that would require courage I wasn't sure I had. By the time I reached her block, a thought lodged under my ribs like a splinter. If my room could vanish in a week, what else could disappear overnight? And when I opened B's gate, I saw the envelope tucked inside the mailbox with my name scrawled across it in my mother's handwriting. Why would she leave me a note now after everything? Last night, I lay on B's couch replaying the moment I found my room gone, the smell of paint. Melissa's voice telling me to watch my step. My father's eyes fixed on the television while my keys clinked on the counter. It wasn't the first time they'd made me feel replaceable. Just the first time they'd made it obvious enough to take a picture. When I was 5, they started calling me the independent one. At first, it sounded like a compliment. Claire can handle herself, Mom would say, smiling as though I'd won a medal. But being independent quickly turned into packing my own lunches, walking myself to school, and figuring out how to sign my name on the forms they forgot to fill out. Melissa, 2 years older, never heard the word independent in her life. She was talented, delicate, promising. She wanted piano lessons. She got a private tutor. I wanted to join a writing club. It's too far, sweetie. Maybe next year. She broke a vase. Accidents happen. I chipped a plate. You need to be more careful. Birthdays were their own silent theater. Melissa had backyard parties strung with fairy lights, cupcakes shaped like her favorite animals, friends from every corner of her world. My birthdays? A store-bought cake and a hurried chorus of happy birthday before Dad disappeared to take a call. I learned not to ask for more. My wins, good grades, winning a debate, finishing a short story were received with distracted nods. Smart girl, Dad would mumble without looking up from his phone. Mom once bought me a book because it seemed quiet, as if my personality was a genre she could shop for. The first time I really felt the split between us, I was 8. We both entered a school art contest. I made a messy collage out of cut-up wrappers and comic strips, chaotic but mine. Melissa painted a tree, soft watercolor leaves, a single bird perched on a branch. She won second place. They brought her balloons, took her to dinner, told the story at church for weeks. My collage got a glance and a frown. That's a lot going on. But hey, you tried. I pinned it to my bedroom wall anyway. Over the years, I became background noise in my own family. Paid my own phone bill by 15, picked up shifts after school, learned not to expect a ride home. I cleaned quietly, ate quietly, lived quietly, and they loved me for it. Not because it made me special, but because it made me easy to forget. By the time I was 17, I understood my role. Be competent, cause no trouble, make room for Melissa's dreams. And last week, they'd made that literal handing her my room like it was spare change. B's couch creaked under me as I stared at the ceiling that night, wondering how long I could keep floating between borrowed spaces before I sank. The envelope in the mailbox still sat in my bag, unopened. My mother's handwriting looped across it, mocking me with its sudden interest. Was it an apology? A demand? Or something worse? I wasn't sure I wanted to know. On B's couch, sleep came in little scraps. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw white walls where my posters used to be and heard Dad's voice. Don't be selfish. The envelope with Mom's looping handwriting felt heavier than my whole duffel. B's mom tapped the doorframe at 7 a.m. There's oatmeal, honey, she said, kind but careful, like I might spill. B slid me a mug. Stay as long as you need, she whispered, then added, almost the same breath. Mom's book club is tonight, so if you could be back by 9. A smile to soften the nudge. I took the envelope to the porch. The paper was warm from being tucked against me. Inside, a single page. Family plan. Melissa will use the spare space until portfolio season ends. Your items are boxed in the garage. Please don't disturb the studio setup. Return house keys to avoid confusion. Let's revisit living arrangements on your 18th birthday. We love you. Mom and Dad, a post-it fluttered out, P.S. We saved your lamp, no apology. Not even curiosity about whether I'd gotten home safe. I folded the paper back along its hard crease and told myself it didn't sting. It did. Between school and a double shift at the diner, I made a list on a napkin. Find a short-term room, price mattresses, ask Mrs. Patel about extra weekends, call the counselor about exam schedule. The pen dug so deep it nearly tore the paper. Independent girls have tidy lists. At lunch, B asked, what did the note say? That I'm a lamp worth saving, I said, and she winced like she'd bitten foil. By late afternoon, the couch had turned from refuge to reminder. I needed to see someone who remembered me before I learned how to be easy to forget. I took the bus across town, clutching my bag to keep the note from sliding out like a trick handkerchief. The elder home smelled faintly of lavender and boiled potatoes. Margaret's door was half open. She looked up before I knocked. "There's my girl," Grandma said, eyes scanning my face, the way a nurse reads a chart. "Come in and tell me what they've done now." I wanted to be brave. Instead, I sat on the edge of her bed and told her everything in a voice that kept snagging paint smell. Ring light, boxes in the garage, the PS about the lamp. She listened without interrupting, that old habit of hers that always made space where none existed. When I finished, she patted the mattress beside her. "They've mistaken quiet for weak," she said. "Common error." "Easily corrected," I laughed, a short watery sound. "With what?" "I don't even have a pillow." She tilted her head, assessing me like I was a recipe that needed one more pinch of something. Then she reached for the knitstand drawer and slid it open an inch. Enough for me to glimpse a thick, rubber-banded envelope inside with my name written across it in steady blue ink. "Margaret?" I whispered. "What is—" Footsteps stopped at the doorway. A young aide leaned in, cheeks pink from hurrying. "Miss Harper? Sorry to interrupt. Claire, the front desk just called. There are 2 people asking for you. They say they're your parents." Grandma's hand hovered over the drawer. My name on the envelope stared back like a dare. In the hall, a man cleared his throat the exact pitch of Dad when he's about to sound reasonable. "Do you want me to send them away?" the aide whispered. I looked from the door to Grandma's drawer, from past to whatever was about to happen, and felt the ground tilt under my feet. The aide's question hung in the air. My parents' voices were muffled down the hall low, clipped, already rehearsing whatever version of the story they planned to tell. "Send them away," Grandma said before I could answer. The aide nodded and disappeared. Grandma slid the drawer fully open and pulled out the envelope. It was thick, worn at the edges, my name written across it in the kind of careful handwriting that doesn't rush. "It's not money yet," she said, "but it's how you'll get where you need to go." I hesitated. "Grandma, I can't let you," she waved me off. "I'm not giving up anything, I'm giving to Big Difference." Inside were documents, a list of accounts, a letter from her lawyer, notes in her handwriting. On top, a single line. "I can't give you a home, but I can give you a way out." The weight of it in my hands was heavier than the paper itself. It wasn't just help, it was a lifeline she'd been quietly building while everyone else looked the other way. "I've been saving for you since you were 5, she said. "I knew this day might come. You don't get to spend your life waiting for scraps." Her words landed like something solid after months of walking on air. In the hallway, a sharp knock sounded on the doorframe, 3 hard raps. "Claire," Dad's voice called, calm but cold. "We need to talk." Grandma's eyes met mine. "Not here. Not now." I tucked the envelope deep into my bag, zipped it shut, and braced myself. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over, not even close. 3 months passed before I saw them again. By then, I'd signed a short lease on a tiny studio, paid in advance with what Grandma called preparation funds. It wasn't much 4 walls, a kitchenette the size of a closet, but it was mine. I slept on the floor at first, wrapped in a blanket, and still woke up feeling freer than I ever had in my parents' house. Grandma and I fell into a rhythm. I'd stop by the elder home after school, bring takeout, help with her crossword puzzles, listen to stories she'd never told me before. For the first time, life felt like it was moving toward something instead of just away from the past. Until that Tuesday evening. I had just kicked off my shoes when 3 sharp knocks rattled my door, not polite, not hesitant, the kind of knock that carries a verdict. When I opened it, they were both standing there. Mom in a pressed blazer, makeup flawless. Dad with his arms crossed, expression already set to disapproval. "We need to talk," Mom said, skipping any pretense of warmth. I stayed in the doorway. "About what?" "We know what you've done," Dad said. My heart thudded once, hard. "And what's that?" "You took advantage of your grandmother," Mom said, her voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. "She's not well. She's not capable of making those kinds of decisions." I almost laughed. "She planned it months ago. She's perfectly capable. Save it for the judge, Dad cut in. From his coat pocket, he pulled a folded sheet of paper, cream-colored with a legal header. I took it, eyes scanning the words. Petition for investigation. Elder financial abuse. You've got to be kidding me, I whispered. You manipulated her into giving you access to her accounts, Mom pressed. We're doing what's best for her. Best for her? The woman who had to prove her love for me by planning my escape? I handed the paper back. You have no idea what's best for her. Mom's eyes narrowed. We'll see you in court. They turned and walked down the hall without another word. Inside, I sank onto the edge of my bed well, my mattress on the floor, and stared at the envelope in my bag. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was official.
Case numbers, hearings, lawyers.
And deep down, I knew they weren't just trying to take away what Grandma gave me. They wanted to take me back. The petition sat on my table like a warning flare. By morning, Grandma's lawyer, Mr. Adler, had us in his office. They're accusing you of undue influence, he said. We respond with proof. Grandma didn't hesitate. Test me, she told him. He arranged a full cognitive evaluation, collected statements from the elder home staff, and pulled bank records showing she'd opened those accounts years before I ever needed them. At the evaluation, she was sharp as glass. What day is it? The doctor asked. Tuesday, she said, then smirked. And your watch is 5 minutes slow, he checked. She was right. Meanwhile, the smear began. Relatives messaged, tell me it isn't true. My school counselor called about concerns for stability. Social media filled with vague, pitying posts. My parents never used my name, but everyone knew. Adler told me to keep a log. I wrote down everything, dates, conversations. Even the neighbor who'd overheard Mom bragging about Melissa's new space while I was away. Facts became my armor. 2 weeks before the hearing, their lawyer quit. He left me one tip over the phone. Include the full testing protocol, not just the letter. Judges like details. The night before court, I packed my bag lease, pay stubs, class schedule, Grandma's evaluation, witness list. Last, I added a photo from my 8th grade birthday, Melissa blowing out my candles while I held the lighter. On the back, Mom had written, "You were always independent." The next morning, Adler texted, new evidence from their side. Meet at 8:30. I opened the PDF on my phone pages of screenshots, emails I'd never seen, and in the middle, a signature that looked exactly like mine, on a bank document I'd never signed. Stamped across the top, Power of Attorney Claire Bennett. I kept seeing that PDF header, Power of Attorney. Claire Bennett as we took our seats. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I held the 8th grade photo flat in my lap until the edges steadied. Adler leaned toward me. We don't argue feelings, he whispered. We argue facts. The judge entered. Oaths, names. My parents sat 2 rows ahead, Mom's posture perfect, Dad's jaw set like a vice. Their lawyer went first. Your Honor, the respondent exploited an elderly woman. Exhibit C proves she granted the respondent financial control. Adler stood. Objection to authenticity. We'll address Exhibit C in cross, he called Grandma. She took the stand with her purse like a small shield. Miss Harper, Adler said gently, did anyone pressure you to create accounts for Claire? No, she answered. I began them when she was 5. I anticipated her parents' priorities. A ripple of coughs behind us, the geriatrician testified next. Cognitively intact, oriented, executive function robust.
He lifted the packet, full protocol attached.
Then the activities director, Miss Harper, negotiated bingo fees line by line. No confusion there. Light laughter, quickly hushed. My turn. I kept it simple. The lease, my pay stubs, my class schedule, the night I set the keys down and left. Finally, I held up the birthday photo. This is what independent looked like in our house. I didn't explain the caption, I didn't need to. Cross-examination felt like walking a tightrope over old shame. You benefit financially, don't you? Their lawyer pressed. I benefit from a bed I pay for, I said. And from a grandmother who chose me with her eyes open. Adler rose again. On Exhibit C, the notary stamp expired 6 months before the document's date. The bank's header is an outdated template. And the electronic audit log, he tapped a binder, Shows the initiating IP belongs to Thomas Bennett and Associates. Dad's pen slipped and hit the table. The judge peered over his glasses. Counsel? Their lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, we request a brief recess. Denied, the judge said, voice cool. Either authenticate Exhibit C now or withdraw it. Silence. Mom finally spoke, soft as tissue. There must be some mistake. The judge turned to my parents. This court does not tolerate fabricated evidence. Choose your next step carefully. Adler sat, barely breathing. I felt the photo trembling in my hands again, only this time from something like relief and terror braided together. The judge lifted his gavel slightly. I'm prepared to rule. And then the courtroom door opened, and a man in a bank badge hurried in, whispering to the clerk while my parents stared straight ahead, not daring to turn. That man with the bank badge didn't look at me, he looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'm the branch compliance officer. We ran Exhibit C, the notary ID is invalid, the stamp is expired, and the e-sign trail points to a device registered to Thomas Bennett and Associates. A sound left my father half cough, half swallow. Mom's nails clicked against her purse. The judge's voice was level. Exhibit C is stricken, petition dismissed with prejudice. Miss Harper remains in full control of her finances. Further, this court cautions the petitioners against submitting altered documents. His gavel fell like a door closing. Outside, Grandma squeezed my hand. They mistook quiet for weak, she murmured. Happens once. We celebrated with lukewarm soup in the elder home cafeteria. She pushed a folder across the table. Medical proxy, she said. If I falter, you decide. I wanted to refuse. I signed. Life began to widen. I earned a scholarship across the state. We found Grandma a better home near campus sunlit garden, a dog named Jasper, live music on Wednesdays. I worked, studied, slept on an actual bed, and visited every Sunday with lemon cookies and stories she pretended not to cry at. The smear posts went quiet. My parents stopped texting articles about elder abuse and started sending silence. For a while, the silence was a gift. Years turned, each one less brittle than the last. When Grandma's hands began to tremble, we named it together and kept walking. She bossed the nurses, flirted with the pharmacist, and told me before every exam, "You already passed. You're just going to pick up the certificate." She left on a soft morning, eyes on the window's square of sky. I held her hand until it cooled, in her drawer, a single note. "You gave me a second life. I hope I gave you yours." I moved the lemon cookies to the counter and cried the way you cry when someone opens a window in a long-closed room. Then I did what she taught me, paid the bills, finished my shift, wrote the thank yous, kept standing. Weeks later, an envelope arrived with my mother's careful loops on the front. Inside, no demands, no lecture, a photo of 3 girls at a church picnic. On the back, "We're nearby. Coffee? Be read it twice." "You don't owe them a reunion," she said. I set the photo beside Grandma's note. The room hummed, Jasper snoring, kettle warming, the small ordinary sounds of a life I'd built. My phone buzzed, unknown caller. I watched it ring and asked myself, after everything I've learned about love and noise, forgiveness and boundaries, what answer does my second life require? I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please like, share, and feel free to tell us your own story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Help us grow as a storytelling community and be part of this journey with us. Can I count on you? Thank you so much.